sweet like a buttercup. You're a Barbie doll. Show them all what I'm made of. Strut down the hall. Won't stop till I get enough.
Welcome back, everyone, to another deep dive. This time, we're going to be kind of cracking open a hip-hop mystery. It's a real what-if. We're talking about The Commission, a supergroup that never quite made it, but it's left a lot of fans wondering what could have been.
It's a puzzle. It's missing some pieces. It's got two of the biggest names ever in hip-hop history, Jay-Z and Biggie Smalls. And there's all these whispers of a supergroup. We're going to be looking at this Screen Rant article that tries to piece together everything we know about the Commission.
Yeah, so for those who, haven't spent their lives on hip-hop forums, let's set the scene a little bit. Recently, Jay-Z name-dropped the Commission in a verse, and it sent fans, kind of scrambling. A lot of folks had never even heard of it. But it turns out this was more than just an idea.
This wasn't just something they jotted down on a napkin. This was a group with a lineup, with a vision, even a long-term strategy. But before we get into all that, we got to rewind a little bit.
Yeah.
Because Jay-Z and Biggie's story goes way back.
This isn't just any random pairing of superstars. These guys go way back.
Exactly. They actually knew each other when they were teenagers, attending Westinghouse High School in Brooklyn. Now, I don't think they were best friends or anything back then. More like casual acquaintances. But you got to imagine, these two kids in the same hallways would both go on to be titans in the same genre. That's pretty wild.
It's like the universe was setting the stage right.
Okay.
But fast forward a little bit. Both these guys start making names for themselves in the music world. So how do they reconnect after high school?
Well, as they both started climbing the hip-hop ladder, they would run into each other at industry events, parties and things like that. And this time around, their connection was deeper. They recognized each other's talent. They recognized each other's ambition. And you can really hear that mutual respect to the music.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Biggie actually guested on Jay-Z's debut album, Reasonable Doubt, on the track Brooklyn's Finest. I mean, even the title feels like a nod to those shared roots.
Yeah, and that collaboration really laid the groundwork for what they envisioned with the Commission. It's not just a coincidence that Biggie mentions the group by name. In his song What's Beef, he even name-drops other Plan members like P. Diddy, Lil Cease, Charlie Baltimore. He wasn't being subtle about it at all.
So this was a full-fledged supergroup in the making, not just a one-time studio session. So were there any details about what the group was supposed to be like?
Yeah, we actually got some great first-hand accounts. Charlie Baltimore, who was supposed to be part of the group, and Dame Dash, Jay-Z's business partner at Rockefeller Records. They've both confirmed that the Commission was a long-term plan. The idea was for Biggie to finish up his contract with Bad Boy Records. Then he would jump ship and join forces with Jay-Z's Rockefeller.
Wow, that's huge. But hold on, for those who might not be super familiar with the record label world back then, can you break down what those contracts actually meant for an artist like Biggie?
Yeah, you have to understand that back then. A record deal was like striking gold, but it also came with strings attached. Biggie's contract with Bad Boy meant that. They had a say in his music, his image, even his collaborations. So fulfilling that contract before joining the Commission meant that he'd have a lot more creative freedom and control over his career.
So in a way, it was Biggie taking ownership of his destiny, which is a pretty powerful statement for an artist.
Absolutely. And it speaks to the level of seriousness and intention behind the Commission. This wasn't just about making music. It was about building an empire.
Now it's impossible to talk about Jay-Z and Biggie without mentioning the constant comparisons. They're both considered, joke hit contenders. But it feels like the parallels go deeper than just being insanely talented.
Oh, for sure. To understand why they're constantly compared, we got to define what Joe actually means in hip-hop. It stands for greatest of all time. And it's not just about skills on the mic. It's about impact, influence, cultural significance.
Yeah.
Basically leaving an undeniable mark on the game.
And both Jay-Z and Biggie fit that description perfectly. But what makes their connections so unique?
It's the uncanny parallels in their journeys. They both rose from humble beginnings in Brooklyn, honed their skills in the same underground scene, and even their lyrical styles shared a certain rawness and authenticity that resonated with millions.
And they both had this swagger and charisma that made them larger than life figures. It's like their stories were intertwined from the beginning, even if they weren't always directly collaborating. But that begs the question, would Jay-Z have reached that same level of success if Biggie were still alive?
That's where things get really interesting. On the one hand, you got Jay-Z, this incredibly savvy businessman who seemed destined for greatness.
He built an empire, not just a career.
Exactly. His business acumen and drive were undeniable. But you got to wonder, how would the competitive landscape have been different with Big E still in the picture? Would their rivalry have pushed them both to even greater heights?
It's like that saying, iron sharpens iron, right? They might have fueled each other's creativity and ambition, but before we get too lost in the hypothetical, let's get back to the commission itself. We got this killer lineup of talent. Biggie, Jay-Z, P. Diddy, Lil C's, Charlie Baltimore. What kind of musical monster are they trying to create?
Well, let's break down their individual styles for a second. You got Biggie's storytelling prowess and his unmatched flow, Jay-Z's smooth delivery, and his knack for wordplay, P. Diddy's ear for catchy hooks and innovative production. Then you throw in Lil Cease's raw energy and Charlie Baltimore's lyrical fierceness. Just imagine that blend of talent in the studio.
That's a recipe for pure hip-hop fire. But beyond their individual styles, what about the overall sound? Would it have been a strictly East Coast vibe, or would they've experimented with different sounds?
That's the million-dollar question, knowing their individual tendencies. I think it's safe to say they would stay true to their New York roots. That gritty, streetwise sound that defined their early work would probably have been the foundation. But you also got to factor in P. Diddy's willingness to push boundaries. He was always experimenting with different genres and incorporate new elements into his productions.
So maybe we're looking at a fusion, that classic East Coast sound with some unexpected twists and turns. It's like, what if Biggie's storytelling met a West Coast beat, or Jay-Z's flow got a Southern bounce?
Exactly. The possibilities are endless, which is what makes this whole thing so fascinating. We can analyze their individual catalogs and make educated guesses, but we'll never know for sure what sonic landscape the commission would have painted.
It's like they left us with this giant blank canvas, and it's up to us to fill in the gaps with our imaginations. But speaking of impact, how do you think the commission's existence might have changed the course of hip-hop?
It's impossible to say for certain, but it's hard to imagine a scenario where a group that powerful wouldn't have had a massive impact. They would have been a force to be reckoned with both commercially and critically. They could easily dominated the chart-shaped trends, influenced a whole generation of artists.
I mean, they were already superstars individually, but as a collective unit, their influence would have been multiplied exponentially. We're talking about a potential shift in the balance of power within the industry.
Right. Imagine record labels scrambling to sign artists who sounded like the commission. Imagine aspiring rappers studying their lyrics, their flow, their production techniques, their impact could have rippled through the entire genre.
It was like dropping a boulder in a still pond. The waves would have been felt everywhere. But beyond the music itself, what about the cultural impact? Biggie and Jay-Z were already voices of their generation. Imagine that amplified through the commission.
It's mind-blowing, right? Their lyrics could become anthems, their struggles and triumphs reflected in the lives of millions. They could have sparked conversations, challenged norms, and use their platform to address social issues in a way that only they could.
And knowing their individual personalities, they wouldn't have shied away from controversy or speaking truth to power. They were never afraid to push the envelope. But sadly, we'll never know for sure what their combined voice would have sounded like.
It's a tragic loss for hip-hop, no doubt. But even though the commission never fully materialized, their story holds valuable lessons for us today.
So let's shift gears a little bit. What does this whole what-if scenario teach us about the music industry, about creativity, about the unpredictable nature of life?
For me, it's a reminder that even the most carefully laid plans can be derailed. It highlights the importance of time and circumstance and just plain luck.
It's also a reminder that we're all just pieces in a much larger puzzle, and sometimes those pieces don't quite fit together the way we expect. But even in those unfinished puzzles, there's beauty and meaning to be found.
It's about recognizing the potential that existed, appreciating the glimpses of brilliance we got from each individual member, and acknowledging the impact they had even without achieving their ultimate goal.
It's about cherishing the moments we have, because you never know what tomorrow will bring. And in the case of the commission, it's about celebrating the legacy that lives on in their individual music and the endless possibilities they inspired.
And that's why we keep coming back to these what-if stories. They allow us to explore alternate timelines, to imagine the impossible, and to appreciate the delicate balance of talent, ambition, and fate.
It's like peeking behind the curtain of history, trying to make sense of the forces that shape our world, both the seen and the unseen.
And in doing so, we gain a deeper understanding of the artists, their motivations, and the cultural landscape that birthed them.
It's about connecting the dots, filling in the gaps, and piecing together a story that's both fascinating and heartbreaking.
And ultimately, it's about acknowledging that even in the absence of a completed work, the potential itself can be a powerful force. It can spark our imaginations, fuel our creativity, and leave us with a sense of wonder that lingers long after the music fades.
Yeah, it's like we're left with this musical echo, this lingering sense of what could have been, and honestly, that's what makes this whole deep dive so captivating. We're not just rehashing history, we're exploring the possibilities, the roads not taking the path that might have led to a completely different hip-hop landscape.
Yeah, and to really get a sense of those possibilities, I encourage you to go back to that source material that we've discussed. Listen to What's Beef again, but this time, know in the context of the commission. Pay attention to how Biggie drops that name, the energy in his voice. Then go check out those interviews with Charlie Baltimore and Dame Dash. They offer incredible insights into just how serious this project was and all the thought that went into making it a reality.
Yeah, for real. Those interviews are pure gold for any hip-hop head. You can hear the passion in their voices, the conviction that this wasn't just some pipe dream, They really believed in the commission. They saw that potential, and it's contagious.
It really makes you wonder, what would their legacy be today if the commission had actually dropped an album or even just a single one? Would we be talking about them as one of the greatest hip-hop groups of all time?
Yeah, that's a question that could spark a debate for days, but for me, it's less about those definitive answers and more about the journey of exploring those questions. It's about using our imaginations to fill in the blanks and just appreciate the artistry and the ambition of these icons.
And I think that's the real takeaway from this whole deep dive. It's not just about mourning a lost opportunity. It's about celebrating the legacy that lives on in their individual work and the enduring power of their combined influence, even if it never fully manifested in the way they envisioned.
It's about recognizing that sometimes the most compelling stories are the ones that leave us with more questions than answers, the ones that challenge us to think critically, to dig deeper and appreciate the complexities of the creative process and the unpredictable nature of life.
So as you go back and listen to those classic Jay-Z and Biggie tracks, remember the commission. Remember the potential, the vision, the shared dream that never quite came to be, and maybe, just maybe, you'll hear those songs a little differently with a newfound appreciation for the paths not taken and the echoes that linger in the silence.
And hey, if this deep dive has sparked some thoughts or theories, or if you have your own vision of what the commission might have sounded like, let us know. Hit us up on social media. Let's keep this conversation going.
Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep diving deep into the world of music and culture. There are always more stories to uncover, more connections to make, and more what-ifs to ponder.
Peace out.
Sound the alarm. I'm coming up. We'll have a ball. I'm sweet like a buttercup. You're a Barbie doll. Show them all what I'm made of. Strut down the hall. Won't stop till